Norman, Emma, and Ray get a brand new ally, and it's not going to be who you'd expect. The most tense anime of the season continues in another amazing episode of the Promised Neverland. This was a deceptively simple episode of the series, with basically only a couple of things happening, but the series manages to be so atmospheric and tense that I don't even mind. It's so good, in fact, that while I'm actually watching the episode, it seems like I blink, we get to the cliffhanger ending, and it's immediately over. I think that's a really great sign of storytelling, that it can actually suck you in that much that you actually forget the time that's actually happening. But the actual episode itself was really simple, and it picked up from the end of the last one, which again had a really great cliffhanger ending where Krone actually revealed that she knows what the kids are doing, and in this episode, she makes a really weird proposal. She actually wants to help them out. Not necessarily so that she can help them escape, but so that she can get a brand new position as the mother of the Gracefield house. It's something that she's always desperately wanted for herself, and is probably one of the reasons why she's so fucking insane. I think this episode will win the award for the freakiest expressions that we've actually gotten from her in the series thus far, but this is also kind of an info dump of an episode where we get to learn a lot about what's actually going on with these children and what's going on outside the walls, in the outside world. Is it ruled by demons? Are all of the humans completely extinct? Are all humans simply just bred to actually be food? A little from column A and a little from column B. But before we get there, I have to say that the opening scene with Krone negotiating with Emma and Norman and Ray and everybody else was just so freaking insane. You'd think this would be the moment where the kids would get completely freaked out, shit their pants, and even maybe try to run away in a panic. But no, they managed to handle all of this with a lot of tact, and a lot of this is mostly thanks to Norman, who always manages to use his brain first. Basically, it's quid pro quo. I tell you something, you tell me something. And they are actually going to work along with Krone. Emma, of course, does have her doubts and even tries to call her out on this, but as long as Norman is the one making all the calls, she's going to be okay with that, knowing that he's really smart at what he's actually doing. She has a lot of trust in him to allow him to negotiate with this crazy bitch. And speaking of crazy, whew, we get to learn so much about how the humans work in this world. Just like the children, we get to learn that Isabella and Krone actually grew up in an orphanage, and they even have those numbers on their neck as well. And we get to learn that only females have the opportunity to become a mother, but there are certain circumstances that they have to do in order to make that happen. They have to be incredibly intelligent, of course, and they have to be okay with the fact that they're basically going to be raising livestock that look just like them. Now, of course, these women are going to have different motivations for why they want to be a mother. Isabella's is still kind of up in the air at the moment, but the reason that Krone actually wants to be a mother is that she simply just wants to live a comfortable life, as normal a human life as she possibly can, hence why she wants to be a mother. It is also fully revealed that they also have these trackers and bombs that are implanted in their body. She reveals this when she shows this big nasty scar right on her chest, and apparently if she ever tries to leave, that thing's just gonna go boom! And so an uneasy alliance is formed between Krone and the children. She even plans to meet up with Norman and Emma later on in the episode, where they're going to exchange some information and learn a little bit more about what's going on in the world, and hopefully seeing how they can actually help each other. We also get to learn that there are humans on the outside world, but they are a privileged few who seem to be living in tandem with the actual, demons of this world. I'm not sure what the circumstances behind any of this actually are, but there actually is hope for them escaping in the world and assimilating with normal human society. I can't wait to see how they're going to do that, and it's probably going to involve some crazy disguises, but this also leads to what might be the most tense scene of the entire episode, where they start to question Krone about some things about their standing and how they have trackers inside of their body, which she's more than happy to oblige and tell them all about. But Krone herself, why she might come across as kind of insane and very cartoonish, is surprisingly sharp. She can really notice things that a lot of people don't, and her detective skills end up really working to her favor in this episode when Emma and Norman actually ask about how to possibly remove these trackers and these devices that are inside of their ears. Krone actually notices when they ask this for the very first time, and she reveals that yes, there are trackers in your ear, that they actually don't try to touch their ear or try to feel for it. She realizes that with them not actually doing this, they actually already knew that they were there in the first first place. She shows that just by reading people's emotions and actions, she can actually sort of like figure out what it is that they're actually doing. The look of horror on Norman and Emma's face during this moment, I have to say, was handled so damn well, and they realize that even though they've teamed up with this woman, they could still potentially fuck things up for them and the other kids. We also get to see that the last gift that Ray is going to receive before he's eventually shipped out is a Polaroid camera, and while the camera he asked for is kind of archaic, he actually needed this camera in order to use some of the things inside of it to create a way of actually getting rid of the trackers in their ears. And they're gonna have to be really careful with how they do this, because it is revealed that, of course, if they are destroyed, well, the demons are just gonna come in and fuck all sorts of shit up. So again, they're gonna have to be really careful. Krone even suggests that maybe they get a scalpel and use some medical equipment in order to make this happen, but again, if you even like try to tamper with this thing, it's immediately going to get Mother's attention and maybe even possibly the demons. Now, this wouldn't be the Promised Neverland if we didn't get a cliffhanger ending, and that's exactly what happens at the end of this episode, where it seems like Krone is about to get a big advantage in learning something about Mother Isabella and possibly being able to get her kicked out and become the brand new mom. Except at the very end, Isabella presents her with a note from grandmother, and apparently she's about to be shipped out. I have a feeling this is a plan that was concocted by maybe Norman and Ray. It looks like they've been working to make something happen in order to get Krone out of their hair. I don't know how this is actually going to go down, but it was a very creepy ending with how it was presented, where it almost seemed like Isabella was going to straight up kill her at that moment by having like a knife in her hand, but it's actually just a letter opener. But again, it's all a complete and utter mystery as to truly what's going on here, and again, like I said, this show just manages to be the master of the cliffhanger ending. So what's the rundown on this episode of The Promised Neverland? I'm fully convinced that the most evil entity in the series is Phil. Just look at this kid. Absolutely fucking horrifying. Either that or he's just a dumb kid. I will say that this episode was pretty damn awesome. Again, I think one of the best things about Promised Neverland is how they use their atmosphere and their tension to just build to an amazing climax with every single episode, and they can do it with barely doing anything, and yet it still manages to be some of the most riveting content that I've actually ever seen. It's very minimalist, but I truly do love it. And again, I've said it before in my previous reviews, but Krone is just an amazing adversary against these kids, especially the way that they actually display her sociopathic nature. The fact that she's kind of insane and definitely one of the most expressive characters from the series. Most everybody is kind of grounded in their appearance, but she is just absolutely terrifying, and it does a great job of displaying her as this very twisted and evil kind of person. I really can't wait to see what the whole deal is, though, with the letter, if she's actually going to be shipped off somewhere, and if she gets really crazy about all of this, maybe she's just going to try and reveal everything that's been going on with these kids, though I have a feeling this has all actually been a plan to set her up, and if it was, damn, these kids are really damn smart. This episode also did another great job of showing that Isabella is incredibly calculating herself and doesn't look like she's going to be so easily tricked by the children. There's even the possibility that they're going to be moving up the escape plan in order to sort of like divert anything that she's going to try to do to counteract that, and I can't wait to see what that's going to be. It's only a matter of time before we get to the big escape plan of the series, and I'm really excited to see where that's going to go and how it's ultimately going to open up to the next part of the series, as once they actually get out of the orphanage, I cannot possibly predict what could potentially happen, especially with the way that they're really trying to keep a lot of the outside world secret, but they built up to it a little bit more in this episode when Krone revealed some stuff. But even though she herself is sort of a privileged person who's able to work in these orphanages amongst the children, she's still not revealing everything, and there's a lot that, frankly, even she doesn't know. There's a lot of mystery to this world, which continues to make it incredibly engrossing, but again, it's watching the characters work and come up with strategies that makes it the most interesting thing. And them actually having to team up with Krone, I have to say, is probably one of the best curveballs of the entire series thus far. I loved this episode right here, which is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. If you guys aren't watching The Promised Neverland, you gotta check it out. If any of you did watch the episode, I would love to get your thoughts about it, and you can tell me all of them in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of The Promised Neverland. Thank you all for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.